Hello, this is the Andrew versus Kevin podcast.
He is Andrew. I am Kevin.
And we're going to have a weekly Frenemies podcast series. From time to time, we will have an umpire to try to, but effectively, officiate the proceedings, basically to keep Maguire in order.
That's enough. If you're wondering who she is behind us, that's Margaret Thatcher, who was a very right-winged Tory Prime Minister back in the day. I think she hangs around like a bad smell. It's his heroine.
I adore her. And actually, I was with her daughter only last night.
Oh, God, you've name dropped. Here we are. Here's your name. Bring it back. There we are. There's your name.
She's a very fine woman, like my mother. And we are talking today, of course, is it a walkover for Keir Starmer in the general election?
Are all bets off on the Tories?
Has Nigel Farage been the victim of dirty tricks in his Clacton constituency base?
And actually, how do you vote?
Who you're going to vote for?
How?
Mechanism. It's very important. I'll tell you about that. And finally, of course, but not least, Trump versus Biden. Oh my God. Did you see it? It was so embarrassing. But Kevin, I've got to say, one advantage of the fact Labour heading for a crushing victory, in a few weeks, it'll be my turn to stick the boot on him because things will start going horribly wrong for Labour very quickly. But they are heading, in my view, for probably the biggest election victory since 1997 with Tony Blair. Tony Blair, who was telegenic, there was a real thrill about Blair. Even I was thinking things could only get better. None of that with Keir Starmer. You lot are ahead because the Tories have been so bad.
Yeah, to some extent, that is absolutely right. There's a big rift, which we'll discuss on the right of British politics reform. But Starmer deserves a bit more credit than you give him because he's come up with a set of policies which will gradually change Britain and you'll get people to vote for him. Look, you can put that Labour vote next to the combined Tory and Reform vote, and the Labour vote at the moment still looks like it'll be bigger. So, I'm sorry, you've got to give him some credit.
Well, why doesn't he cost the policies aren't costed properly?
Yeah, they are.
No. Studies respected said this week that there is a major deficit in democracy here because neither Tories or Labour have costed their proposals. He's 20 points ahead in the polls. 20 points ahead in the polls. He should have been courageous and bold. Instead, he's captured. He's been captured by Rachel Reeves, the Shadow Chancellor.
That's enough of that. The fact is, the plans he has are costed. Down the line, there is a problem unless economic growth comes in and tax revenue soars or new taxes are increased. Both main parties will have to cut public services.
So push Labour on how they're going to achieve economic growth. The easiest way to achieve economic growth is to cut taxes to stimulate demand. Well, they're not doing that. Yes, it is. But what they're going to do is they're going to reform the planning system. Yeah. Well, has nobody ever thought of that before? How is that going to turn the economy around in 12 months?
The easiest way to increase economic growth is to rejoin the European Union. It's not going to happen. You backed coming out, and it was a major blow to Britain. An act that will cost us more than 100 billion a year down the line.
You can tell he's plugged
100 billion a year
into the EU publicity machine here. British economic growth in Britain is faster now than anywhere in the European Union. And actually, I'm thrilled we left the European Union. We don't want 27 countries meddling and fiddling and telling us what to do. Thank you very much.
You do know the figures for April, the latest month for growth, were published, and the growth in Britain was zero. None.
But the previous quarter, soaring. Look, growth goes up and down. But the fact is, we're not going back into the European Union anytime soon. Although let's not forget Keir Starmer when he was in Jeremy Corbyn's shadow cabinet. In fact, he's quite uneasy to talk about, of course, because Corbyn was a Marxist. He was in Corbyn's shadow cabinet, let's forget, and he was the architect of the second referendum plan, i.e., didn't matter it was the biggest vote in British electoral history. Yeah, he wanted to overturn it. We shouldn't forget that.
You'll know
when they're in power in a few weeks' time, they'll be cozying up to their mates in Brussels, cozying up to that European court and elected.
You have been in for 14 years and growth per year, and that has just averaged over 1%. It was much bigger in the Labour 14 years before that. You'll know that from your own cash. And when you look at your bank account, you look in your wallet, you'll know what's happened to your wages, still worth less in real terms, what they can buy, than 2008.
You know, within a few months, people realise they've been conned. changes. The NHS will not be dramatically improved under Wes Streeting. Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Secretary, is never off the TV and radio. He will become the most loathed politician.
I think you've lost them.
18 months.
I think you're just
within 18 months.
I think
because he will not be able to cut waiting.
You're emphasising the con in Conservative here. I think you've lost them. On your record. Own it. Own it. People do better off under Labour governments. If it goes wrong at the end, as it did with the global financial collapse in 2008, and that wiped out a lot of the gains Labour had made, Labour paid a price for it. I understand that. People do better, economic growth-wise, under Labour.
It's a very, very dreary manifesto. But the most interesting thing about it, do you know how many photographs there are of Keir Starmer in the manifesto? 34. 34 in 131 pages. The only other person who's got their photograph on their own in the manifesto, Angela Rayner. Did I tell you I had a baby when I was 16? Did I tell you I was working? Oh my God, it is so boring.
Right, one you've been.
Did I tell you my father was a tool maker?
You've been very snobby about people, and you exaggerate the number of photographs. It's not 34.
It's 33.
33.
So I got one wrong.
Anyway, should we move on?
We should. Because Farage is the big elephant in the room, an enormous elephant. He's a herd of elephants.
A bull elephant.
The polls are suggesting he's going to walk it in Clacton. And of course, a few weeks ago, this was the whole point of British gamble, in my view, on an early election. Only 4 cabinet ministers in the loop, and I think only one of those thought it was the right decision. But he thought it was going to bounce Reform Party because they didn't have any money, no organisation, no candidates. But he also thought Nigel Farage wouldn't stand as a candidate. That worked in the first week, then Farage changed his mind. And it's a game changer because the Tories are going to lose dozens of seats because of Farage, in my view. Young people are very energised by him because he talked directly. He's a very charismatic figure. But Channel 4 done this great expose about racism and homophobia in Clacton. And they focused on a character. Turns out he's a leader of the Equity Union. Is this dirty tricks?
Well, is it? I mean, I'll tell you why, because they always scream dirty tricks in that party. Reform UK, very hard right party, attracts a lot of people who are really bigoted, racist, homophobic, incredibly unpleasant. Now, I don't really know the case of this actor, but when they got all these others who were standing and people who thought, oh, Britain shouldn't have fought Hitler in the Second World War, bit of a problem for a plastic patriot like Farage when somebody says that. He says, oh, we paid a vetting company lots of money and they didn't weed them out. The problem Reform has, and the problem Farage has, he's got to sit down and think, why am I attracting all these really unpleasant, nasty, rancid people? And I think the answer for that is he just has to look in the mirror. Because yes, he'd be the ringmaster. He can create the circus, but he has very few answers. He just likes to spread hatred and poison.
You've got to be careful.
That's what he does.
You've got to be careful you're not demonising millions of people who are going to vote for Reform in this election. Because 4 million voted for UKIP in 2015. 4 million. Are you saying that you're racist?
See,
racist and homophobic?
You are doing exactly what he did. I'm talking about him and the party, and then you immediately say that means everybody who votes for it. No, people vote for all sorts of different reasons. Don't do it though. Don't play his tricks. Don't be his apologist. Yes. He's an apologist for Putin. Don't be an apologist for Farage.
This is what he always does, you see, when he's on.
I use facts and arguments.
He starts belly aching and chanting and abusing. The fact is, millions will vote for Farage because they do not think. They do not think Starmer is being truthful. He's not levelling with the electorate about the scale of the problems. And I'm the first to admit the Tories have left the country in a deep mess because they've been a shambles for the last 4 years, an absolute shambles. But the Labour Party haven't levelled with the electorate. And now, admittedly, Nigel Farage's manifesto would be in the fiction section of a library, not the non-fiction section. But he says it. How would people find it? And people like what he says about immigration. This country is full to the brim.
A small group like what he says, and they've got their own reasons for it. Some of them will have legitimate complaints, others won't. But it's a small group. He might win his seat. They might win a handful of seats. Now, I'm going to form the next government, which is why he could produce a fantasy document. As you said, his manifesto, he calls it a contract, not a manifesto. It could be in the fiction section of the library because it's never intended to be implemented. He's just trying to con people into voting for him. He's a wrecker not a builder, Farage. You see it time after time. He likes to demolish and create trouble. Where there was harmony, let there be discord, but he just cannot come forward with anything concrete. He couldn't run a bath.
I talked to him very recently in this campaign, and his whole plan is that after the election, depending on the scale of the Tory defeat and carnage, there could be a realignment on the right, and he wants to be part of that. So it could be in 2 or 3 years' time, Nigel Farage is a key player in the Conservative Party.
Well, he's a Thatcherite. He loved her.
Quite right too.
He loved her, but he's very bitter about it now, and he wants to smash it in the hope, as you say, of either taking it over or becoming the alternative to it. It'll be difficult to do. As somebody once said, if there was a nuclear war, only two things would survive, and it would be cockroaches and the Conservative Party.
Do you think he's had a bet on himself?
He might have done. He has in the past. In one way, I don't think people betting on themselves winning is a terrible thing. It's when you bet on yourself to lose, and there might be the suggestion you're going to throw a result, or you have inside knowledge on the date of a general election because you're close to the Prime Minister, and you're then going to make hundreds of quid.
It's just extraordinary, isn't it, that Craig Williams, who's now being looked at by the police, we think he's Prime Minister's Parliamentary Private Secretary, he's completely jeopardised his entire career and reputation for 500 quid. Is he mad? £100 bet of 5 to 1. Why didn't he put £20,000 on it so he can take his family to Acapulco if he wins, have a whole new life? 500 quid. Look, I know some people listening were thinking, £500 is quite a lot of money. It would be quite a lot of money to my mum if she was still with us. But it's not enough to jeopardise your career. £20,000. How much would that have been at 5 to 1? Very nice. But these are tiny piddling amounts. It's not corruption. It's stupidity. That's it's stupidity.
The greedy are often stupid and really daft, and they just lose all sense of what they're doing.
The Labour candidate Kevin Craig bet on himself to lose in that seat in Suffolk. Well, and people think, well, that's not serious. No, it is, because he would have seen his canvass returns and knew he wasn't going to win. And we don't know how much he put on. But then he came up with this convenience winning the charity.
Some of the bigger pools that he might have won, he won't now.
Exactly. Now, if you do vote, and we say you must vote, very important, even if you think, I can't stand any of them, and you would like a box on the ballot paper saying none of the above, you can go to the ballot paper and spoil it. That is registered. There will be a tally in each constituency. But the important thing is you have to take photographic ID. Now, Maguire will tell you this is a Tory party plot to rig the election because there will be some people who don't have photographic ID. Absolute hogwash. There are 45 countries in Europe that have photographic ID. One of the few countries that don't is Britain. So we've finally caught up. And you normally want to do everything the way Europe does it. So finally Britain's caught up with Europe, and he's slagging it off. Of course he is. He wants it both ways, doesn't he?
There's no evidence of any impersonation and fraud at polling booths. There's an odd case every election.
You're the odd
That case. Is it. There will be hundreds of thousands of people will be turned away. Polling stations are open from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. If you've got a postal vote, get it, fill it in, send it now. If you don't, you can take it on the day to the polling station. But you've got to find out where your local polling station is. And it's true, you now have to take approved ID. So if you're a student, you've got a student card, or you're a member of the armed forces, a veteran, and you've got a veteran's card, sorry, they don't qualify. If you're an old person and you've got a bus pass, got a picture of you on, that's okay. There is a list on the government website, but you can see what they've done as they're trying to stop young people in particular from voting, which is why they've brought it in. They have, because younger people tend to vote against the Conservatives, older people vote for the Conservatives. So it made it easier for older people with a photo ID and harder for younger people.
And of course, Labour, talking about rigging elections, they're going to bring in votes for 16-year-olds. Have you ever heard anything more ridiculous? So finally, did you watch it? Could you bear it? I was actually, hands on my eyes, Trump versus Biden. It was cruel. The First Lady has to say to Joe Biden, darling, it's over, it's enough. He froze during the debate with Trump, and it was as if he didn't know where he was. I've told this before, but Democrats are saying they're really worried about him serving a second term. They should tell him he already has. They might not know. They can't stand him down. convention in the autumn, and there's a man called Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, 55, 56, good looking. He could probably win.
Oh, he's walk it.
Because otherwise we're going to get Donald Trump, because he massacred Biden in that two-way. It was cruel.
It's the doddery v the deranged. I'll still go with the doddery Biden over the deranged Trump, who we saw just lied and lied and lied. And let's remember, he was a coup leader. If he gets in, it might be very difficult to get him out of the ballot box again. But if the Democrats replace Biden, however they do it, maybe he'll just drop dead. But if they can replace him, they would walk that contest. Well, he's not looking in the best. Good record, actually, and the economy is doing really well in the States. He's a far superior, better human being than Trump, but nevertheless, he just looks incapable. Now, Ronald Reagan was the same. I don't remember you on the right then criticizing Ronald Reagan, who used to have naps and would forget himself. It was all covered up back in the day. It's harder now. We're on top tick here. Yeah, exactly. The scrutiny is greater. I think that is better because there's more accountability, but the right, his lot, have backed a doddery president in the past, but they don't like Biden really because he's a left winger. In many ways, he's to the left of Keir Starmer and Labour in Britain.
The worry is, you see, if he does go in and fights the election and wins the election, which would be very difficult, they'd have to take him out. The men in white coats would take him out probably within a few months, and then we've got Kamala Harris as president of the United States, the vice president. And she makes Kevin Maguire look statesman-like and intelligent. Really, really worrying. I mean, I don't wish to be unkind, Kamala. Not up to it, love.
But the institutions of the US can survive a.
You can agree on that?
No, we can't. She's a law professor and a judge. No, don't.
Useless.
You can. Yes, you can say useless.
But the most unpopular vice president in the history of polling in America.
She is not fit. But the institutions of the US can survive and even prosper with a doddery president. What they can't do is with a liar who is malicious and venal.
Be in an institution, Joe Biden.
I think you'd find. I think you find there's an outside chance that Trump will be an institution. It's called a prison.
But in the American Constitution,
he was a convicted felon.
We gave America so much, but I don't think we created a constitution which meant that he can campaign for the White House, Donald Trump, from the comfort of his prison cell.
Can I just say a point of history? I think they wrote their own institution after they kicked Britain out
they should never tip that tea.
War of Independence, 1776, 83. I think they gave us out. Anyway.
I think they probably did. So Biden versus. I haven't seen it. It's worth catching up, but it needs an X rating.
Yeah. Now we love your questions, and we've got some here.
We have.
We do. Keep them coming in. Keep them coming in.
People want to know about the pension age. Well, Kevin and I will draw our pension at 66.5, which means Kevin will be drawing his in about 2 weeks' time. I've obviously got 3.5 years to go.
Yeah, the state pension is £221.20 a week, but you've got to pay national insurance,
which is the lowest in Europe.
Yeah, you've got to pay national insurance for 35 years to qualify that. If you're young, you'll probably never get it because the plan is to keep putting up the age. You go from qualification 66, 65, 67.
All your lots problems.
The Conservatives have been putting it up a lot faster than Labour, but look, it's very low, the state pension. People, unfortunately, now in the cost of living crisis, can't really afford to put money in their private pensions. If you can, you should. Early pounds do most work. But it's a crisis coming down the road.
Don't forget, it's the Tories who said they will never allow a tax on people's state pension. Labour pointedly refused to make the same commitment.
Which means in 4 years you'll save 24p a week, but you won't have a health service.
Kevin, once the tax goes on, it goes up again and again and again. Actually, so much better to rule it out completely, and Labour won't.
What they're saying is they won't let another policy impact on it, which is freezing the rate at which you pay income tax. That's what's all about.
Quickly, if someone's Aidan Gibson has asked on Twitter, is it right for a candidate to donate £100,000 to their own campaign? I think you need Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor. He has spent £100,000 of his own money, and it's not going to do him any good because I'm pretty sure he's going to lose to the Democrats.
Aidan, it's not right, but what's even worse is Frank Hester, an entrepreneur who said Diane Abbott should be shot, has given $15 million to the Tories.
That's it from us.
Bought it.
That's it from us. You can listen to us on the usual platforms, Spotify. You can, of course, go to my website, www.andrewpearceofficial.com, and you can find us. We'll be here every week, the same time on Friday. And we might have an umpire to keep him in order because he talks far too much.
And each week we should ask who wants to do this to him.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye-bye.